For this episode, we'll be taking a look at things relating to vampires and related creatures, and how the localization hasn't always managed to get them right. In retrospect, I should probably have saved this episode for Halloween, but I'm not waiting that long. But as usual, this series contains spoilers, so without further ado, let's suck some blood. To start us off, let's talk a bit about every Suikoden fan's favorite vampire, Sierra. The first thing we'll go over is her last name, as this is translated as Mikain in English and presumably means nothing. It's supposed to be Mycenae, which is the name of an ancient city in Greece that shares a couple similarities with the village of the Blue Moon, the village of vampires that Sierra ruled over many years before the games. Both were the seats of an ancient civilization that predates most of recorded history, and both were destroyed under mysterious circumstances. Mind you, the circumstances behind Mycenae's destruction likely weren't that mysterious at the time. They've just been lost to history. Mycenae probably wasn't destroyed by a power-hungry vampire either. Probably. Another thing the localization gets wrong about Sierra is her title, or rather it makes one up. Both the original and remaster refer to her as Mistress of the Coven, which is not the case in Japanese. It's not a mistranslation as such, because there's nothing to translate, they just added it. In Japanese, her only title is the Founder, as she's the original vampire that all other vampires originate from. And the last thing we'll go over with Sierra is the way she speaks. In Japanese, she speaks archaically, highlighting just how old she truly is and how long she was isolated from the outside world. In the localization, there is no attempt to emulate this, and it's just ignored. And while I agree that it would just be weird and sound corny to have her say things like thou or thee in English, the fan translation of Suikoden actually did show her slightly off manner of speaking by having her not use contractions. The Night Rune is the rune that governs all creatures of the night and has the power to bring them into the world and out of it. As such, it holds special power over vampires. It was once intertwined with the Sun Rune, but turned itself into a sword and severed their bond. In its sword incarnation, Zerasi refers to it as the Sword of the Night, but most often it's called the Star Dragon Sword in the original localizations of 1, 2, and 3, or the Celestial Sword in the remaster of 1 and 2. In Japanese, it's known as Seishinken, and the reason it got translated as Star Dragon originally is because the localizer of Suikoden 1 read it as 2 words instead of 1. Read that way, the first part means star, and the second dragon, specifically the zodiac sign. The most literal translation when read as 1 word would be celestial bodies, so that's where they got the remaster translation from. A more nuanced translation would be something like the Constellation Sword, though a popular fan name is the Zodiac Sword. In the original localization of Suikoden 1, Victor mentions that Neclord was turned into a vampire through the misuse of a rune. This is an interpretation by the localizer. What he said in Japanese is that Neclord was turned into a vampire by the power of a rune. And though it isn't mentioned by name, this refers to the Moon Rune. And Neclord was turned into a vampire in the same way all villagers of the village of the Blue Moon were, namely by Sierra, the bearer of said rune. This was somewhat corrected by the remaster, where it instead says he used a rune to become a vampire. Though what I personally find more interesting about Neclord is that the way Sierra tells the story in Suikoden, it's implied that Neclord wasn't a name he took when becoming a vampire, but rather his given name. So he must have had weird parents. The zombie in Neclord's castle will give you hints about how to get through the castle in exchange for money, though in the original localization, the most important one got mangled in translation. He's supposed to tell you that Neclord first looks at this painting, then he looks at that painting, and so on, essentially giving you part of the correct order. But because the zombie has a somewhat strained way of speaking, the translator got confused and thought he was telling you not to look at him. This was fixed in the remaster. The most expensive hint that the zombie offers is just a joke answer though, but in the original localization it's just gibberish because the localizer didn't understand what he was saying again. This was somewhat fixed in the remaster, where instead he tells you that Neclord is an outie, referring to his belly button. Though this is a very literal translation of the joke, as saying someone is an outie in Japanese is essentially your bog-standard playground insult, on the level of calling someone a doo-doo head in English. But we're not quite done with our zombie friend, as he still hides a secret, as deep within the files of the game he has a hidden message left there by one of the programmers. And despite being removed from the original localized version, it still remains in the remaster and is even translated. If you view the script files, you can find this entry where it says, "Kazuko, my dearest Kazuko, I love you so very, very much. Whether it be 10, 20, or even 50 years, I will always, always love you. Teehee. Thank you for all that you've done for me, and I look forward to spending my life with you. P.S. Let's get married." As far as I can tell, there's no button combination that will display this message, so if Kazuko ever saw this message, will have to remain a mystery.